Are you in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or beyond? And for whatever reason, over the past few years, maybe 10, 20 years, you haven't really been wearing makeup very often. Special occasions or that kind of thing, but it's just not part of your daily routine. Maybe you wore makeup in your 20s and 30s, and then life got busy and you were raising kids, and you just didn't feel like you needed it or wanted to wear it. Maybe you've never worn makeup. And now you'd kind of like to start wearing it, but you're not really sure how to go about it without looking overdone or having it feel really heavy on your skin. Wearable, easy, out the door, affordable makeup look for everyday work or school or just running errands that will enhance your features without leaving you feeling overly made up or overdone. Some people might refer to this as a no makeup look. If that's what you want to see, then stick around because that's what we're doing. So, since you are new to makeup, I'm going to assume that you don't have a lot of fancy tools. So we are going to use the applicators that we were born with, our fingers, and the tools that came with the products that I'm going to use, if applicable. I'm not going to go into the specifics of my skincare routine or what happens before I put on makeup, but I do have on my serums, my moisturizer, and my sunscreen. And I have let that sunscreen set in for about 20 minutes. I also like to use some sort of a lip balm or lip moisturizer on my lips before I get into putting on makeup so that by the time I'm ready for lipstick, my lips are nice and hydrated. And this is just an AOA honey lip balm that came from Shop Miss A for $1. So the sunscreen that I use, the MyChelle Tinted sunscreen, is actually the one that I could use as a foundation if I wanted to. It does provide a little bit of coverage, and if I were to powder, I could probably get away with it as a foundation if I just wanted it to be really, really light. But I do like a little more coverage than that. I have a couple of red spots right here that I would like to cover. My skin is actually looking pretty good right now. I do have some redness on my forehead, but I wear bangs, so I don't worry about that much. My biggest issue for me is that I do have darkness under my eyes, and I do like to brighten that up with a concealer. Obviously, any step I do, you are free to skip, and if you want to do more than I'm doing, you're free to do that. For a foundation for someone who's new to makeup, I would recommend something that is light to medium coverage and that is kind of in the Tinted Hydrator BB cream CC cream category. This is something that's going to feel light on your skin and is going to give you a more skin-like finish. I am actually going to use the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. My color is fair, but I do have a couple of others that I use and would recommend depending on the availability of products where you live. I like the Maybelline Dream Fresh BB Cream. My color is light 110. This does say that it has an SPF of 30, but you don't want to rely on your foundation for your SPF because you don't use enough of it to actually get that SPF. I wasn't sure about the longevity of this one, so I wore it yesterday and it did last all day long, about 10 hours, I think. The CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk. Mine is 520 Fair. This is also a really nice skin-like finish. And one of my favorites, the Misha BB Cream in my color, and this is 23. And I have loved this from the first time I've tried it. This is actually my third tube of this. I have gone through 2 other tubes. But today, as I said, we're going to use the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. And I'm just going to put that on the back of my hand. About just a blob, I don't know, probably have way too much, and I'm going to spread that out, and I'm just going to put it on with my fingers and start blending it out. Oh yeah, and I have way too much. So we're gonna smooth this out, blend it in, bring it down the neck a little bit, press it in on the side of my nose, and I like to kind of pat and then go back on the back of my hand and bring some over here. I always like to test a look before I film it to make sure that it's going to work the way I intend it to work. And when I did this yesterday without talking, I actually set a stopwatch and I was able to finish this look in about 11 minutes. And that wasn't like rushing and trying to get it under 10, that was just putting on my makeup. Obviously today, with me talking and explaining things as I go along, it might take just a little bit longer. Now this formula is buildable, so if you have some areas where there's something that you'd like to cover, you can go in with another layer after you let it set, or you can do that with your concealer, which we're going to do in just a minute. I do like to kind of press, if I'm using my fingers, on my nose and my cheeks, where I have a little bit larger pores, so I make sure that I have that actually pressed into those pores and not sitting on top of it, because that's how you get that polka dot pore effect, where you can kind of see a white spot where every pore is. I'm going to come in and let you look. I think that gives a really pretty finish on the skin. It does not settle into my lines and wrinkles, and right now it's a little glowy, but because I have slightly oily skin and the weather is getting warmer, I'm going to powder that when I get the concealer on. You may not want to powder if you have dry skin. Remember, when you are watching any content creator on YouTube giving you makeup advice, especially regarding complexion products, you need to take into account the age and skin type of that content creator to know if that advice is going to be applicable to you. If your skin is different, or you're very much younger or very much older, it's very likely that that product will perform differently on you than it did on them. Then I'm going to take my concealer, and today I'm going to use the L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Concealer. This is a cool toned concealer. It is about just a half a shade to a shade lighter than my skin tone. You don't want to go much lighter than that, because you could end up with this reverse raccoon effect where you have really light under eyes compared to the rest of your face. Another one that you hear mentioned often on YouTube, the iconic Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. I have the shade Brightener, and I do like to use this on lighter coverage days as well. So with my concealer, I'm just going to take some on the doe foot and put it here in this trough and in the corner of my eye where I have most of the darkness. And I'm going to blend it from there. I will take my ring finger and just kind of start dabbing it to spread it where I want it. Now, because I'm not going to use any eyeshadow with this look, I am going to go ahead and take that over my eye, because I have some discoloration and veining and redness on my eyelid, and it's not completely blended in. I want it that way. I like to let it set up just a little bit, because that gives me a little more coverage there under my eyes. I always have a washcloth in my lap so that I can wipe my fingers off or wipe off a brush or whatever. So I'm going to go in now and just keep patting and pressing that concealer into the foundation along the edge so that I have a really smooth blend. And there isn't a distinction between where the foundation was and where the concealer is. And then again, I'm going to pat my eyelid. I don't want to have too much product there, because then it will crease. And now the under eye area is brightened and the discolorations on the eyelid are concealed. I do have a little bit of a red spot here that I can still see that the concealer didn't come down, so I'm going to, and another one here. So I'm going to take just the tiniest dot of concealer and tap it into those places, and then feather out the edges so that it isn't too obvious that there's a patch of concealer here. And this is why you want a concealer that's about the same color as your skin, or you need two concealers. If you want your under eye to be a little lighter, then you need one that is skin tone for these blemishes and things like that. As I said, I like to powder because I have oily skin and it's warmer, and sometimes my makeup decides it wants to go slip sliding away. And so if you wish to powder too, one of the powders I like to recommend is the CoverGirl Clean Fresh. My color is 120 Fair, and I don't think this one actually came with a powder puff, but I do have a puff from another powder that I'm going to use. If you happen to have a brush, you can certainly use a brush. But I'm just going to use this puff that came with an e.l.f. powder that I had, and make sure to pat out the concealer, even though we just did that, to make sure there aren't any creases. And then press that powder around the eye, press it into the pores on the nose. Like so. and then you can use the puff to kind of brush it away. But I'm just going to press. You want to dab and press that powder. And I'm just really hitting the T-zone with that because I don't mind having a little bit of glow on the outer part of my face. But I do like to mattify the center of my face. If you don't like being that matte, then by all means don't powder. This BB cream will set down and won't feel tacky. I'm not going to bronze or highlight in this video. That'll be left for the Makeup 201, the intermediate course. But I'm going to use the CoverGirl Cheeker Blush. This has been around forever, but it is really still so good. And it does come with a brush. It's not the best brush to use, but it's usable. So, going to dab in there with that. And remember how you used to put your blush on when you would smile and put it on the apples of your cheeks? Yeah, don't do that anymore. Because when we smile now, our apple's right here. And then when we stop smiling, now your apple's down here. So you don't want your blush down here. So forget that advice about smiling and putting the blush on the apple of your cheek. Doesn't work anymore. Gravity has dropped the apple. And don't get your blush too far forward here. Think about starting your blush kind of in the outer third of your eye at the closest and working back and up. So I'm just going to dab this on there with that brush and then kind of just flick like that. So dab and then brush to blend. I'm going to blend out the edges. So it starts here. This one I got a little close, but you can take the powder puff and just kind of blend the edges if you need to. No big deal. And that is the complexion. That's all we're doing on the complexion. So now let's go on to the eyes. For the eyes, we want to define and lift them. Sometimes we tend to get a little bit droopy, a little bit hooded, and so we're going to lift those eyes with our eyeliner and mascara. I am going to use this 98-cent Wet n Wild eyeliner pencil in Simma Brown now. It's the same pencil that's been around forever. And I love it. I have one in brown and I have one in black. And if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? So I am going to tightline with this. Now, if you're not comfortable with tightlining, it does take a little practice. I wear contacts, so there are many different techniques on YouTube about how to tightline. So if you don't like my technique, just put tightlining in the search bar and I'm sure you'll find many others that you can try. But what I do, because I wear contacts, I want to make sure that I don't draw on my contact. And so I put the pencil at the corner of my eye and I kind of open my eyes wide and then just gently lift the lid as I mark on that inner waterline there. You do not have to do this if you don't want to, but I do think that it helps to define the eye. You can see here versus here. Again, put it in the corner and gently lift. Take your time. Don't rush. If your eye starts to water, grab a tissue, dab a little, and then try again. Okay? Then I'm going to put just a little bit here at the outer. If you make a mess, just brush it away. I'm going to go kind of in between the lashes, above the lash line now, just on this outer portion. And then I'm going to take my finger and just make it a little smudgy. And then I'm going to take just a little bit under the eye, again, just on this outer corner to give a little definition. Just like that. I am going to do my brows. I think the brows are important for framing the face, just like you generally wouldn't hang a picture on a wall without a frame. I like an eyebrow pencil that comes with a spoolie. You can get separate spoolies, but then you have two things that you're juggling in your hand. This is the Wet n Wild retractable brow pencil, and the color is ash brown. This is a thicker brow pencil. It's supposed to be shaped, but the shape kind of goes away and it just kind of gets rounded. But I like it because you can fill in your brows really quickly with it. If you don't know how to do your brows, again, there are videos on YouTube to show you how to map them, where to start, where the arch should be, where the tail should be. If you'd like me to do something like that in the future, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see what I can do. So I'm just going to draw little short strokes. I do not take a lot of time on my brows. I think that there's such a thing as good enough for your brows. And you can see how quickly this pencil just draws them in. I don't have a lot of brow hair. The years when I wasn't wearing brows, I had much fuller brows, so it didn't look quite so sparse. Once you get the color on, then you can take your spoolie again and kind of work through. And if you need a little bit more, it's always easier to add than it is to take away. So I like to go lightly, brush them through, add a little bit more, brush until I get to the intensity and color that I want. I forgot to mention, if you want just a little bit of color on your eyes, you can take just a little bit of your blush and dab it kind of right in the transition. And the transition area is kind of just below the crease and just above it. And that will give you just a little bit of a flush there. It's not super obvious if you're using a darker blush. You want to be a little careful with this. But that will just give you a little cohesiveness that brings some of that color from your blush into your eyelids, and I think it's really pretty. The final thing, especially for me, because my eyelashes are so blonde, is mascara. I actually have quite a few mascaras from the drugstore that I like, but right now my favorites are the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effect. This is the green one. Some people have trouble with this smudging. I do not. I do have oily eyelids, and this doesn't smudge on me, but everybody's different. Another one that I'm really liking, and I just got it, is this Biggie Lash from LA Colors. I did a full face of LA Colors ultra affordable makeup, and I will link that down below if you'd like to go watch that. This says that it's a tubing mascara, and I have not found that to be true, but it does stay on and last really, really well. So to apply your mascara, you want to kind of get in close and put it at the base of your lashes and just kind of wiggle and pull. If, like me, you almost always end up touching your nose or your eyelid, don't panic and don't touch it. Let it dry, and I'll show you what to do in just a minute. So you're better off doing more thin coats than one thick coat. And I do put mascara on the lower lash line as well. So base, wiggle, pull. Base, wiggle, pull. If your mascara wand comes out and it's really full and kind of clumpy, you can always just brush off the extra like this. And then you have less on your brush to make a mess with. And I do a second coat on my upper lashes, but I don't often do a second coat on the lower lashes. And there's the lashes. I didn't curl my lashes because I'm not sure that that's necessarily something that you'd be doing as a beginner, but if you want to curl your lashes before you put on mascara, by all means, do so. Oh no, it just started pouring and my poor husband was out cutting the grass. Our lawnmower has been broken and the grass is so tall. Thankfully, we live on a farm and our nearest neighbor's a half a mile away, and it's my mother-in-law, and she doesn't care how tall our grass is. So I let a little time elapse so that my eyelashes could dry. And I told you I'd tell you what to do if you got a little mascara on your eyelids. You're going to want to take a magnifying mirror. I use a 10x because that's what I need to see. And you're only going to look at the mascara dots. You hear me? Don't look at those wrinkles because nobody has 10x vision. They cannot see that. And if you have any of those foam applicators, I was hating on these pretty hard in a video not too long ago, but Makeup by Pia told me that they were great for inner corner, and then I also discovered that they're great for flicking off mascara dots. Who knew? So you're going to take that and just kind of flick gently, and the mascara dots just disappear. Now, I did notice when I was looking in the 10X that I have a little bit of creasing on my concealer, and so I'm just going to press that out. When that happens, it's generally because I used too much product and I didn't pat enough away. Then I'm going to just take my finger and kind of press to give my lashes just the tiniest little bit of curl. Like that. So we only have one more thing to do, and that's lips. And for a lighter look, I like to use a tinted gloss, and two of my favorites are the NYX Butter Gloss and the Maybelline Lifter Gloss. And I think today I'm going to use the Butter Gloss in Tiramisu. It's a really pretty pink, and I think it will go really nicely with this Natural Twinkle Cheekers blush that I use. The nice thing about a tinted gloss is you don't have to worry about a lip liner, and it's very hydrating and it looks really pretty, so you can just toss that in your purse and off you go. It's not going to last as long as a liquid lipstick will, or even a bullet lipstick, but it's really pretty and it's comfortable and it's easy to apply, and you don't even need a mirror. If you're needing to put more on, you can just, you can just kind of close your eyes and put it on. Leave me a comment down below. Are you going to try this look? And if you do, then come back and let me know how it works.